Welcome to the Balanced Body Podcast, where Sherri Griggs, owner of Balanced Body Health and Wellness in Omaha, talks to us about health, wellness, and balancing hormones. All right. Welcome back to the Balanced Body Health and Wellness Podcast with Sherri Griggs, owner of Balanced Body in Omaha. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, John. The question is, how are you doing?
Well, I think that we're going to dive right into that because you, as the hormone expert extraordinaire, and I being your test subject, I almost think of myself as like the mouse, the mouse being tested.
Okay, John the Mouse. We'll call you JR. So when we're talking about John, that's you, but we're talking about JR, we're talking the mouse, that's you.
Yes. We're talking about the mouse, me.
But we need to clarify that we are not like being a test subject for hormones, mind you. You are the test subject for the DNA weight loss, the Balanced Body Blueprint.
Right. Sorry if I misspoke. That's okay. We're getting into the DNA, a little bit deeper into DNA, because today you wanted to talk about leptin.
I did. But before we start, I have a question for you. I have to tell you, John, you're looking very good.
Thank you.
And I can see the weight loss in your face. And really? I bet our viewers can too. How much weight have you lost, John?
I have lost I haven't weighed myself today, but about 12 pounds.
Okay.
So, yeah. Which I know, like, my goal obviously is much bigger than that, but like something that has struck me that you've said in the past a couple times, and we've said it on the podcast even, is that a lot of times people are trading muscle mass for fat loss, right? Mm-hmm. So, like I'm not plummeting down with weight, but I'm feeling a lot better, which is great. We went for a hike just recently, and I was feeling great the entire time, which is awesome.
That is awesome. And we need to get you in to do your in-body so that we can check that, right? To see if you're dropping fat, gaining muscle, and just the fact that you feel better. And another thing I like to say is when you lose it slower, you tend to keep it off.
And right? That's the goal. That's the goal for me. I want to extend, maybe not extend the time that it takes to lose weight, but just like I want it to be a manageable thing that I get into.
Yeah. Right? So if it's fast, it's not sustainable, because if you lose weight really fast, you're probably doing something that's not a lifestyle. It's some sort of a change. It might be a medication or a drug, or you're doing something, right? Where this way, you're not on a diet, you're learning a new lifestyle. Mm-hmm. By learning that new lifestyle, and you feel better, and the body can reset, right? It learns that this is now my new normal. And by doing that slowly and keeping it off, it gives the body time to reset, as opposed to, oh my God, I lost, 30 pounds in the last month, or I've lost, 100 pounds in 30 months. That's not sustainable.
Yeah.
That's not something that you can continue to do.
Yeah. And I felt like it was two things. Just a little history about me. One of the things that I grew up when I was younger, I couldn't leave the kitchen table until I cleaned my plate.
So many of us did.
I know. So I always feel like it's kind of a mental battle, but it also truly, now that I know, because we pulled the DNA and we looked at it and I got the snip for it, my DNA shows that I actually have a hard time feeling, which is crazy because that's exactly how I feel.
Right. Now, a question for you, because when we go over ways that you can increase your leptin levels and sensitivity, and we've already been doing some of those things with you, maybe unbeknownst to you. Have you noticed any difference?
I have.
In your satiety or feeling full?
I have, actually, yes. So I still do have trouble to not clear my plate, but I have also stopped eating and had food on my plate a couple times through the past months, a lot more frequently than in the before times. I like to say the before times.
and some of it's an awareness, and some of it may be because of some of the things you've been doing. And when we start going through this list, go ahead and say, I'm doing that. Some of these things that you've been doing has helped with that.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
So leptin. Leptin is made by our fat cells. Okay. It is a hormone. And what it does is it tells our brain when you're full. Okay. It helps regulate your metabolism. So when you stop, when you don't have enough or you don't have the sensitivity, you stop responding to it, it results in you feeling maybe hungrier, storing more fat, and having a harder time losing weight.
Yes.
One of the ways to lower your leptin sensitivity and decrease your leptin is to more or less put your body in starvation mode or not eat enough. So what happens to our people that were on the injections, right? The GLP-1s, the Ozempics, the tirzepatides, Wegovy, they didn't eat. They weren't hungry, so they didn't eat.
Mm.
So because they didn't learn lifestyle, they didn't learn, well, whether I'm hungry or not, I need to take in protein. Two things happened. One, they lost their muscle. Many of them became what we called skinny fat. They were skinny, but they were made all of fat. They had no muscle.
Mm.
And they tanked their leptin levels by doing that. So when they would go off of this shot, that's why 80% of people put the weight back on. They were starving. I had somebody tell me that exact same thing. She said, my God, when I went off that shot, I was ravishingly hungry.
Mm-hmm.
Why? No leptin or no leptin sensitivity.
Huh.
And then your muscle is your metabolism. So now you're hungry, you never feel full, and your metabolism is in the gutter. It's slow, and your metabolism is how quickly we burn calories. So you are set up to fail if you don't do that type of weight loss properly.
Now, so real quick, and I know that this isn't necessarily about the GLP-1s.
That's okay.
But why is that sort of the go-to lately for people? Is it just because it does kind of make it easier to lose the weight, and then the idea is that you can learn those after you've already lost it?
Well, it's so everybody wants the easy button, right? And it's easy. Doesn't require you to change how you eat, doesn't require you to change your lifestyle, doesn't require you to take any supplements, doesn't require you to exercise. You don't have to do anything but take a shot. Decreases your appetite, slows down how quickly food moves through your system. So you get a lot of problems with people having constipation, people having reflux, things like that, because it slows down how fast the food moves through. But you lose weight. It's almost impossible not to if you don't eat. So, and it helps with insulin resistance. So insulin resistance, meaning the insulin can't open the cells up for the sugar to get in. So your pancreas spits out more insulin, and insulin causes you to hold weight. So it also takes care of the insulin resistance. So your pancreas quits spitting out as much insulin because your body can use the insulin you have. So it works twofold. It gets rid of the appetite, slows things down, which makes you feel full longer, and helps remedy the insulin resistance, which insulin resistance causes you to hold weight. So the weight comes off quickly and they don't have to work at it. It's easy.
Okay.
So that's why people want to do it. And, I've tried everything, nothing else works, but we know in our field, you haven't tried everything because you could have just taken care of the insulin resistance in other ways, right?
Sure. Well, and that's kind of why I really like the process. Just from my point of view, I've always been of the mindset that if you're not working towards it, then it's not going to be sustainable. And I don't know if that's kind of the same thing that you had just talked about before, but like it is, because it's like you make a change to your livelihood, and then that's what really helps you to lose weight, which then it's easy to keep off because then you've made big changes that help you do it. But when we were talking well before we started, one of the things you had asked is if I wanted to do a GLP-1 or if it would be like something that I would be interested in trying.
Mhm.
And I don't know why I have this negative thought towards it. It's not that it's not negative because it does help lots of people, but I don't know. I feel like if it was too easy, then I wouldn't actually make a change. I feel like I would have been one of the 80% that just like put it right back on.
Well, working with me, I wouldn't have allowed that.
Okay.
Right? I don't just give people a shot and send them out the door and collect their money. Right? Collect their money, give them a shot, send them out the door, and keep doing that week after week after week. There are, if I have somebody that's on GLP-1, they're doing a protein shake. They're doing in-bodies. We are watching their muscle to fat ratio. I will know if they are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. They will still do the elimination. They will still learn how to eat.
Yeah.
Right? They will still talk to the health coach and learn how to eat. And I can monitor that. And I'm also not going to say, here's the medication, follow this every 7 days, you go up. That isn't how you do it. We need to know, do you even need to go up? Where are you at? How are you feeling? So because so many people just get given the medication with this schedule, right? You take this dose for 7 days, then you go to this dose, then you go to this dose. Nobody guides them. Again, when I said, take their money, give them the shot, and I'll see you later, that's exactly what it is. There's nothing more involved.
Interesting.
So I monitor to make sure they're not losing muscle. And if they are, well, then we're going to have to talk about that, because you shouldn't be, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Now, if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing and you're continually losing muscle, then I'm not prescribing you any more medication. Because if we're doing this together, it's an understanding that we will be successful, right? I'll be successful in helping you get to where you want to be, and you'll be successful by getting there. And if you don't do what you need to do, if you don't follow what you need to do, then John, you're right. You will be one of the 80%. So, and that's something that, I definitely make sure of in advance. Here are going to be my requirements to continue prescribing this medication for you. Are you willing to do this?
Oh. Well, and I like that process. Like it makes it so that it's just, I don't know, sustainable on all levels, right?
Yeah. Well, it makes sense. Like you said, you see the letters, you've seen numbers, all these things are true. It's not just me telling you, hey, maybe you should stay away from dairy, right?
Yeah.
You can see it's in your genetics. It's your genetic SNP. So that's one of the things I like. That's why I added the DNA testing to my weight loss, because then people can actually see. It's not just me telling them.
Well, and honestly, like, to take a more general view of the DNA versus none, like, even though tests that you're giving through blood testing or some of the others, DNA was there supporting some of, like, a lot of those tests, all of the tests, but then it also gave you insights into other things that made it to where it's like, well, yeah, no, this just makes it easier for us to make this decision. And we had talked about it just seconds before we opened up the podcast, but you had talked about how not only like my leptin had, a orange on it. I forget how you worded it.
Oh,
but
medium risk. Yeah.
Like a medium risk. But then you were talking about something else, that like, this is why you were on this diet, because your DNA says that you need to avoid this diet too. I mean, it just gives us these insights to make it easier to just say, this is the way that you can be successful better.
Right. Which we said, stay away from saturated fats. So Atkins diet would not work for you, because Atkins is all about eat bacon, eat fatty meats, eat all the fat you want.
And you put a big old X on that one for me.
You bet I did. I literally drew an X across it. No. Because you can have all the good fats, all of the unsaturated fats. I mean, you could sit there and scoop some coconut oil and put a teaspoon in your coffee if you want, which really is a good thing to do. But that's an unsaturated fat. That helps your brain and your body and everything work properly. Which then that kind of puts you into the, being able to do like a Mediterranean, right? Which is heavy in good fats. So Yeah.
That's awesome.
So speaking of good fats, guess what one of the things are that help you with your leptin sensitivity and your leptin levels? Good
Good
fats.
fat. I was gonna guess.
Yeah, avocado, nuts, olive oil, right? Healthy fats. And we know also healthy is coconut oil. Coconut oil is kind of one of my favorites. And ghee, right? Healthy fats. Then it talks about complex carbs. Okay. Complex carbs are things like sweet potatoes. Do you know why sweet potatoes are better than white potatoes?
I actually don't.
They have more fiber.
Oh.
And if you look at glycemic index, fiber helps lower glycemic index, but it's still a sweet potato, it's still starch, it's still a complex carb. But fiber helps slow down how quickly it's digested and slows down how quickly the sugar dumps into your bloodstream.
Huh.
Okay. Things like oats. And I always recommend, I like a sprouted, organic, gluten-free oat. Actually, get them at Costco. And sprouted, um, your sprouted grains have more nutrients in them.
Which I have taken to as sort of my go-to breakfast. And I
Yeah.
got the ones from Costco that you suggested. And they are
Good.
good. And
Yeah.
they help me to stay full through the morning.
Yeah. Yeah. And then whole grains, right? Now, for you, wheat is not one of the optional whole grains, but whole grains can be an option if it's not wheat. So that's where the oats come in as a whole grain. Okay.
Yep, we're doing that.
Good.
And I was going to say too, the unofficial way that we kicked off our restrictive diet, which by the way is greatly restrictive, was basically to say fun with fats. We were trying to figure out all the healthy fats, how to use them in the right way.
Uh-huh.
What did they taste like, and what could we make with them? And it kind of made that month where you're not eating anything but like basically vegetables and well, just vegetables and like a little bit of meat. That's like you're doing well.
Vegetables and meats, as long as it wasn't corn-fed beef, right?
Right.
And really that's kind of what you get into: vegetables, berries, fruits, greens, because when you can cook them all kinds of different ways, they're not so boring.
Mm-hmm. No, right.
Yeah.
We actually did okay through it. I mean, I make it sound like it was awful. It was just a change. You look at it
Yeah.
that way.
I had somebody, I met with a gal yesterday, and we're treating, both of us treating this patient, and the patient told her, I'm just bitchy, I can't eat anything. And I said, we're only eliminating like 6 things. What do you mean she can't eat anything? I gave her something with 2 huge pages of food you can eat.
Yeah.
So this other provider looked at me and said, well, that just tells you that she was eating processed crap
Mm-hmm.
if she feels she can't eat anything.
It's true. Which it's
So
easy to do. I mean, shoot, processed crap is everywhere.
and because it's easy. Yeah. So, all right. Next, we want to, and again, this is still about food, right? So we want to cut back on inflammation. And I believe I just said inflammation causes weight gain causes inflammation. So ways you can cut back on inflammation is eat foods that are anti-inflammatory. That's going to be things like berries, greens, fish, foods that don't cause inflammation in the body. And there is anti-inflammatory diets out there. In fact, I had an anti-inflammatory diet cookbook, and every single recipe had cooked onions in it, because I
Oh,
found out later that onions are a prebiotic. So, and they help with inflammation. So I don't like them that much. They're okay. But if I got the sweet ones, no matter whether it called for red, or I just got the sweet ones, and when you cooked them, they weren't that strong, but you still got the benefit.
oh my gosh, Vidalia onions are totally awesome.
Yeah. The video. Yeah, exactly. Another good buy at Costco. Um, cut back on processed and sugary foods. That's everything. Sugar causes inflammation within the body. It is an inflammatory food.
Yes. And that was a hard one for me.
That was a hard one for you. Yeah. Because I believe it was even in your DNA increased preference for sweet foods. Actually, you had a medium risk for that. So there's normal risk, medium, and high risk, and you had a medium risk for an increased preference.
Which I do. I do have an increased preference for sure.
Yeah. So that's something you're aware of now, right?
Yes.
And awareness is power.
It totally is. Because then you have a name for it and you can look out for it. You can say, am I doing this because I need it, or am I doing it because I want it?
Yeah.
Always want.
Yeah. So usually it's just like, I want it, but if you wait long enough, it goes away. So next, load up on protein, especially in the morning. So eggs, turkey sausage, protein smoothie for people who can have dairy, a Greek yogurt. But my friend does goat. I think she found a goat yogurt because it doesn't have the same makeup. Goat milk is anti-inflammatory.
Really?
Or milk is inflammatory, and I have not looked at the reason, but we know this.
Interesting. I think we had talked about it.
Yeah.
About how goat milk is good for us.
Yep.
I forgot about that.
Yep.
There's just so much information in this. Like
there is.
It makes your head spin sometimes. You're just not sure.
I know. Then, and this, I've already mentioned this, but focus on fiber-rich foods with low glycemic meals, right? So glycemic index can easily be researched online. You can look at things that are, high in the glycemic index. And what that means is these foods raise your blood sugar to higher levels quicker. And fiber slows that down. Okay. And then avoid excess snacking and sugar.
That's the one that I thought was going to be harder for me, but because of like the protein shake, because that truly does help when I do that as a snack, then I'm not as snacky. And the problem is when you get snacky and then you make bad decisions, it's like all at once you've ruined your day.
Yeah. And I mean, my husband takes and he makes himself with fruit, and it's usually blueberries, or we have some sort of a blueberry, raspberry, He's started making that his dessert at night.
Oh.
Because he puts the fruit, the good fruit, right? The anti-inflammatory fruit in with, and I carry the bone broth protein powder, which there are a lot of people that would argue this. And so I'll put that out there. I don't like whey. Whey is hard on my stomach. Whey is a dairy product. And the provider I met yesterday agreed. She's like, no way. Ha. So I have a bone broth protein, which is good. It's good. I was going to say it tastes a lot better than some of the pea proteins and some of that. I used to do that, but it doesn't cook as well in recipes, and it doesn't get as smooth. And I don't think the flavor is as good.
Right.
So, but if somebody is vegan or vegetarian, then obviously that's always an option. It's still protein. Yeah.
Yeah, I tried some of that pea protein just because my sister came over and she had some.
Yeah.
And it's not good.
It wasn't good. She probably said, this is a really good one. And you're like, now try mine, right? Like, isn't mine better?
Right. Yeah.
I especially like to make the chocolate and put extra cocoa powder in it. It's just like a chocolate dessert, coconut milk, ice, and an extra cocoa powder to make it more chocolatey. And cocoa powder does not have sugar in it.
Yeah, no, I have the vanilla one, so
yeah.
The next refill for the chocolate one, I'll try.
Okay, let me know. And then a little bit of cinnamon. It's just it's so good. Okay. So next, let's think about stress. Okay. So stress, if you can decrease stress. So things like uh, before you go to bed, thinking about relaxing, turning screens off, not being in front of the computer. They would say also not being in front of the television right before you go to bed. I read a hard book, book in my hands at night before I go to sleep.
Hmm. My
And
my my schedule has changed slightly just because I used to stay up super late.
uh-huh.
My schedule just in general is a little bit different.
So how have you changed your schedule and why?
Well, working in the job that I do, I tend to have to do a lot of things at night just because updating sites and things have to happen when nobody's really crawling them.
Yeah.
But my sleep schedule used to be that like around 2 or 3 in the morning is when I would actually get to sleep. And then I have to wake up to get the kids to school. So I was getting very limited sleep. Um, and I didn't know how much that was affecting me until I started actually getting my rhythm in sort of order.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit earlier, and by a little bit earlier, it's around 10 or 11. And so like I'm gaining, what is that, like 4 or 5 hours of sleep in there, still waking up at 8 to get the kids to school. Um, and it's weird because then like I have this crash that's like definite. It's like 10 o'clock. I'm like ready for bed. But I feel so much better through the day because I'm getting a little bit more sleep.
So do you think you're a little bit more efficient during the day because you've gotten more sleep and does that somewhat make up for the extra work you were doing by staying up later?
That's a very good question. I think I am a little bit more efficient. It does. I do get a little bit more work done in the morning that I wasn't doing before because I was like,
Okay.
I'd be up getting the kids ready for school and whatever, and then I would get home, and then it would take me a minute to actually get started.
Mm-hmm.
And now I just get back and then I start because I'm like
Because you feel
rested.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have
Um,
more energy.
and I make a lot of really bad decisions late at night, early in the morning. So cutting those hours out of my day and sleeping through when I would be snacking or doing other things has kind of helped to just like eliminate that. Like early morning, nighttime John makes bad decisions for daytime John. Is what it is to
Well,
say.
and that's because when we're hungry, let me take this back. When we are tired and our body is lacking in energy, what tends to give our cells energy is food. So at night, you're like, okay, I'm tired. I need to eat. I need energy. So you go to eat something. And then usually it's going to be something with sugar because your cells are craving energy and energy is associated with sugar. And not necessarily sugar in the form of a sweet thing, but our body turns foods either into amino acids, which are our proteins, right? Or our carbs into sugars that we use.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and that next one is about sleep. Consistently getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep, good quality, consistent quality sleep.
Yeah. That is a game changer. Honestly. I've heard that's like sleep is your superpower when you really kind of make it a priority.
Mm-hmm.
It really helps you to just like you just don't know how. I think what it is that I think back, I wasn't necessarily always tired, even though I actually was. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
feel that way until
Yeah.
I got sleep, and now I'm looking back like, oh my god, I was just exhausted all
You tend to not realize how bad you feel until you feel good
the time.
and then realize it because again, that's your normal. That's just how you always feel. You don't
Right.
know what you don't know. And then when you start to feel better, either by eliminating these foods, getting more sleep, just in general, you're like, wow, I used to feel really crappy.
Yeah.
But you didn't know because you didn't know you could feel so good.
Right. No, totally. That's 100% accurate.
Yep. Yep. And then moving, strength training 2 to 4 times a week, some moderate cardio. So we saw that in your DNA. What are you doing for exercising now?
I bought a bike, not
Good.
necessarily a road bike or anything, but like a
Huh?
little cruiser. So I'm riding around with the kids. And we tend to try to go walking. It's been a little tough this past couple of weeks, but that's, I was going on walks pretty regular.
Okay.
I always feel like my need is to go running, but I always hurt myself and then stop running.
Don't
So
run.
yeah, I'm trying to do like walking.
So we talk about moderate cardio, not high intensity, moderate. As we get older, high intensity tends to raise our cortisol levels. So I tell people that are older that want to do cardio twice a week at the most, right? Because you don't want to raise your cardio levels. You get people or your cortisol levels that will go every single day. So the cortisol levels are staying high, and high cortisol tends to make you keep weight on your body, especially in the middle. So as we age, we don't need that. We don't need to stress our body and our adrenals any further. So just moderate. And I think yours was maybe some high intensity was a recommendation. I'm kind of looking at it now.
It was. I did get the recommendation to do more HIIT stuff.
Yeah, high intensity, but that's interval, right? High intensity interval. Running is not interval.
No, it's not.
So running is constant, depending on how fast you're going, obviously. But do is hurt yourself because that can really set you back.
Yes. And I feel like I always have done that, is I would be all of a sudden excited to do some sort of weight loss journey. I would start running and then I would hurt myself. Not in the ways that you think. One time I got bit by a dog while I was running. So I know it was awful.
But it still laid you up, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And
Running
then
is
you're not,
dangerous.
huh?
Running is dangerous.
I keep telling people that. I'll tell women, well, unless you want all your insides to fall out, you probably shouldn't do a lot of running.
Oh my gosh.
Well, think about all that pounding and jumping and jerking and
Yep. That's true. That's true.
that was just my excuse. So because I don't run. I'm like, oh, running is so bad for you. But as we learn more and more and more, it can be very good for mental health. I have a friend that runs, and it is very good for her mental health. Diagnosed issues with that, and it really helps her. But she and I've talked about it, and she's more of a slow runner. It's not a lot of hard pounding. But still, right? Still, someday down the road, this will come back to be an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Our bodies weren't meant to do that, right? That's our fight or flight. We're meant to run for short distances quickly, not run long distances for 2, 3, 4, 5 hours,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like marathon.
Very
So,
true.
how about your strength training? Have you started that yet?
That's the one that I need to do more of.
Okay.
I'm doing body weight exercises and things. Yeah. But my frequency needs to.
It's only 2 to 4 times a week. You would only have to do it twice a week to help with your leptin.
Okay.
So, and then we talked about our stress. So doing, some meditation, deep breathing, journaling. There's a really good app out there called Calm. And that Calm app, it helps you. It gives you things that you can do to help with meditation. It's free. They have different ones on there. You can do a 5-minute, a 10-minute. So the Calm app is a really good app to use. And because it's on your phone, you can do it at any time. You could arrive to an appointment 15 minutes early and do 10 minutes of meditation.
I have been journaling, which has been nice.
Perfect. That's good.
Yeah. It's been helpful.
Right? Very helpful. I have a lot of patients that pray. They find that is very good for them, or that just sit quietly, which is kind of like meditation, but they don't actually do a guided or try to do anything intentionally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Man,
good.
So many things to do. It's crazy.
Yeah. What's awesome though, it's so many things you can do, right?
Yes.
It's not like you have to, if you added one new thing a week or one new thing a month, again, it's not like you have to take this list, which I'll share it with you, but it's not like you have to take this list and go, okay, I did this today, this today, this today, right? Again, it's not sustainable to put yourself in that position because 30 days to make a habit?
Yep.
So maybe you do one new thing a month.
You got guidance and Sherri on your side, but it's going to make it so much easier. So.
Yeah. So, and you can go to my website, balancedbodymedical.com, which is a beautiful website, as John will tell you, because he built it. Which actually I'll tell you about this later. And so I am running a hormone special until the end of May, where you can have your consults, hormone panel, including thyroid and a diabetes check, and the follow-up to go over the results for $300. And we can do that telehealth. If somebody is interested, if you're listening to this and you want to do that, we can do it telehealth. Of course, I'd rather see you in person, but just for that, you wouldn't need to come in person, and it's a really good deal. It's an $800 value. So if anyone's interested in that, balancedbodymedical.com, you can sign up for that on the site. You can sign up for a free discovery call and ask all kinds of questions if you'd like.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
This has been the Balanced Body Medical Podcast with Sherri Griggs, owner of Balanced Body Health and Wellness. If you're looking to find Sherri, go ahead and look for the website, balancedbodymedical.com. If you're looking for the business and you want to find Sherri at her office, you can find her at
10815 Elm Street in Rockbrook Plaza. Thank you.